Welcome everyone to another episode of Football with the Fellas. I'm your man Mazo.
And Clay from Brooklyn.
And
What's
we're
up?
here. In this episode, we're going to talk about New York Giants Game 2. What you call it? It was a
disaster. It was a debacle. It was any kind of painful word.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the game, with our expectation that we had going into the game. We're going to talk about a few plays that occurred in the game. And then we might leave it up to you, let you know, see if what we said you felt the same way.
Exactly.
So Clay.
Yes.
About that debacle.
Mazo, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start from the beginning and just say, we set at least two records yesterday. One interesting good, one interesting bad. The good record is, if I remember correctly, Malik Neighbors set the record for the youngest player to ever have 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown reception in a game in the history of the NFL. He just turned 21. He's the youngest person to ever have all that in one game. So that's a solid, positive, interesting, good thing.
And it was the thing that we mentioned too. We said Malik Neighbors, we need to throw the ball to him.
Got to get the ball in the league. Okay. And they even threw some deep passes to him. Daniel missed him on a couple of deep passes, but at least he threw them.
Yes.
The bad record we set is we are the first team to score 3 touchdowns, not give up any touchdowns, and lose that game in regulation. If you told me Saturday we were going to score 3 touchdowns and Washington was going to score no touchdowns, I would have bet a large amount of money, and I don't gamble, but I would have bet a large amount of money that was a W. Because how could it not be?
Right.
How could we score 3 touchdowns and they score no touchdowns and we lose? We found a way.
As you say it, I was recalling the game, and I'm thinking how are Washington, how are they staying in the game? They were not getting into the end zone, like you said. And I'm like, how are they staying in the game? What is going on?
So the reason they stayed in the game is because they did not punt once. They did not punt at all. They scored on every single possession except the one at the end of the first half when there was 15 seconds left and they took a knee. They scored every single possession.
Wait a minute, they didn't.
They had the ball 8 times. One time was right before the half. And that one, they took a knee and went to the half. The other 7 times they got field goals. Every single one. Well, now, most games you get more than 7 or 8 possessions, but their possessions were taking all day long. They had, I think, something like 15 more minutes of time of possession than we did.
Yeah.
Okay. We couldn't stop them until they got in the red zone. And honestly, it's not like we stopped them in the red zone. They stopped themselves most of the time, right? They got 3 false starts in our red zone that basically killed their drives. And one, I think it was a hold. So there was another penalty. They got 4 penalties in our red zone. So we look good on paper because we stopped them in the red zone. They were in the red zone 5 times. They got no touchdowns. So that makes us look like, oh, well, we must play great defense in the red zone. No, they just played really bad offense in the red
zone. But we got to talk about, and I shook my head right at the beginning of the game, how does your kicker running down the field pull a hammy? And when he did it, first when they said it, I thought that he got hit. And
I saw it happen. He got hit. I saw it happen. No, really, I was watching because it was a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So I'm watching the play unfold, and I saw him clutch his leg and collapse, and there was nobody near him. And I was like, oh, he's done.
And then there's no backup. And we put the punter in, and that was a mistake.
I mean, it was the only option we had, but it looked like he had, and he kicked the field goal last year for us for 40 yards. Like he has done this before, but it looked like that was the last time he did it. Was last year when he kicked the 40-yard field goal. He looked like my golf swing, which for those of you who don't know, I don't play golf. So
not well.
I've played golf 5 times in the last 20 years. So imagine what my golf swing looks like. That ball looked like me coming out of the sand trap. But you're not supposed to have to yell 4 from a sand trap, but I do.
I heard that our kicker went into the game with a leg injury. He had a groin injury, right?
A groin injury.
So how do you not have a like? Can you let me ask this question though? Can you have a backup kicker on
You
your
can,
active squad?
you can.
I mean, you
Now, the
won't.
other thing I've read is that you're supposed to have 53 men on the active roster, of which I think is 48 get to actively dress for the game. But we only had 52 on the active roster, so we didn't even fill up the active roster to choose 48 from. So in other words, we could have put the 53rd guy as the kicker because we didn't even have a 53rd guy. And we didn't even do that. We were like, no, we're good. We're good with 52. Not only don't we need a kicker, we don't even need that spot filled. So we're good with 52.
Right. It's just,
The
I
man
don't
is
see
30.
it.
Our kicker is 37 years old, coming off a season that was injury plagued and has a groin problem. And you're going to tell me that it didn't occur to you that maybe you should have another kicker, or at the very least, that your punter should be doing a whole lot of place kicking to get ready just in case?
I agree with that. I agree. I totally,
Because
totally,
he
totally
really
agree
did
with
look
that.
like that was his first time seeing that particular position. Because that extra point that he missed was terrible.
It was
It
like
was terrible.
it was junior
I've
high
seen
school.
kicks that were blocked that look better than that.
It curved, but then it went to the right. Then it's just
It
like,
went to the right. It was like a Steve Carlton slider that just broke across inside on the ankles of a right-handed batter. It was terrible. It was terrible.
it's really a shame. It's really a shame because, you know, for me, now you might think differently, but I thought Daniel did pretty good. I thought he played pretty well
He played okay.
for him.
For Daniel Jones, that was a good game.
It was
And
good.
honestly, statistically, it was a good game, period.
The strategy changed because we had to go for 2 points all the time.
All the time.
We couldn't get in field goal position because it made no sense. We had to go for first downs. So
Right.
I thought he was doing pretty good. I mean, he missed a couple of throws,
He did miss a couple,
but you know,
but he didn't put the ball in harm's way.
no,
Like no interceptions.
he didn't fumble. Did he?
Didn't fumble.
Didn't fumble. So he was doing okay. He did okay.
He did okay, especially considering we barely ever had the ball.
True.
I mean, we scored 3 touchdowns, and Devin Singletary fumbled on the first possession of the second half,
Yeah.
right about midfield, just crossed midfield, if I remember correctly. It looked like the makings of a good drive were happening, and then he fumbled. But that killed a fourth drive that might have perhaps led to something. I think we had either 7 or 8 drives. When we got the ball back for the second time, there were 5 minutes left in the half.
Right.
And I'm looking at the screen saying, did I fall asleep? Did I miss a possession? How could there be 5 minutes left in the half?
I was thinking
And we
that.
get on the field for the second time.
I was thinking that. I was thinking about when they had the ball and like they heard the announcer say that the guys warmed up about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Right.
They were already dry. They had to go
They should
warm
be on
up
the
all over
sidelines
again.
warming up again.
I just
They
couldn't
can't possibly
believe.
be loose.
I couldn't
That was
believe
terrible.
that game was, oh, man.
The defense, to me, is why we lost this game. And it's hard to say that when you only gave up 21 points. When you look at the final score, you're like, oh, well, 21, that's not a lot. You should be able to win a game you've given up 21. No, they scored every single time. When you look at it that way, that's not a good game. They ran for 200 yards. What?
Yeah, they ran through us. That was bad. That was really bad. They were opening up holes like it was nothing. Like nobody was there. There was nobody filling any holes. There was our defensive backs. They don't tackle.
Well, Drew Phillips did. He's had a good game. That's the rookie. But you're right. As a general rule, we also can't get off the field on third down. Like there were either missed tackles or penalties or just some nonsense always would come up that turns 3rd and 14 into a first down or into 4th and 1 and they go for it and make it. Like this. Very frustrating. Very frustrating.
It was.
And
one thing I
this
did
is
like
Washington. This wasn't the 49ers. This wasn't Kansas City. This was Washington.
Not them. Not them. Look,
Daniel has their number, and in fairness, he played well.
He does, and they must have heard us talking because
right.
If it was, I thought it was me. They were like really looking to throw the ball to Neighbors.
Oh my goodness. I
I'm
think
like,
they did it too much.
yeah,
He had 18 targets.
I couldn't believe that. I was like, is anybody else out there? Because he was looking for neighbors all
Jalen
day.
Hyatt had 11 snaps. Like he was on the field for 11 plays.
Was he? Because you know what?
11.
I didn't see him. I really didn't see him.
Well, you know who really didn't see him was Daniel Jones.
Right. I'm like, what play was it where I remember, I think it might have been Slayton. Slayton went long, he got open, but Daniel threw it to Wandell in the middle of the field. Now Wandell's not a big guy.
No.
And there was a safety behind him, there was a trailing back, and there was a linebacker right to his right. So I'm thinking, why you throw it to him when we got Slayton go long? And he had a good pocket this time, but he had his eyes focused on Wandell.
Daniel doesn't seem to read the field well. He doesn't seem to come off his first read to the second read. I mean, you hear a lot of people complaining about that. He locks in on a receiver, like pre-snap. He's like, okay, this is where I'm going to go with this ball, and that's where he goes with the ball.
It's
and
true.
The defense
it's true.
Can follow his eyes and just make a play on the ball. And if somebody else is open, it's just too bad.
Right. They show that
why receivers start trotting after a while, because they're like, well, he's not looking at me, so I know he's not going to come back to me unless he's like running for his life. Then maybe. But even then, I won't be running this pattern anymore. It'll be like a scramble drill. So very frustrating.
Very much so.
But there's so many, I mean, again, there's things to take away from that game that I like. The pass protection was actually pretty solid. I mean, again,
I think so. I agree.
We gave Daniel Jones time to throw in both of these games.
I'll give you that.
I was disappointed again with the amount of pressure our edge rushers got. I mean, they got home a few times, and in fairness, Daniels is hard to sack. Like, he's very mobile, and in fact, he pulls the ball down and runs more so than Daniel Jones does. Like, at the first sign of trouble, he's like, I'm out.
Yeah. He's. I think you talked about it before. Now, I'm not sure this guy's gonna make it through the season if he keeps doing that, because he get blasted one time.
He got blasted once, got the wind knocked out of him. He only missed one play, but he did get the wind knocked out of him. No, and that was by a pair of defensive backs. Imagine if Dexter falls on him or something.
It's over.
That's not going to end well.
No. He does pull it down. You had mentioned that too. You mentioned it last time.
And he's very athletic. You got to run. Like, Kyler Murray is faster than him, but he's running with the hope of still throwing the ball.
Right.
And he'll slide as soon as anybody gets, in the same neighborhood.
Rightfully so, because
Daniels has not figured that out yet. Now, Daniel's a lot bigger than Kyler, so I'm not saying that he has to be as afraid of the hits as Kyler does. But if you want to have a lengthy career in the NFL at 6'4", 215,
you got to get down.
Slide.
You got to slide. Practice the slide.
Practice the slide.
Feet forward.
Or get out of bounds. One or the other.
True. And Daniel took off, like you said. Daniel took off a couple of times. Okay, he's getting into this game. Okay, this is good.
And he also kept the ball, like, pulled it out of the running back's belly and took off on his own and a little RPOs. I like the fact that he's willing to run even coming off this injury. I respect that.
Right, I do.
It makes me nervous, but I respect that he's like, no, I got this. I can run for 5 or 6 up the middle.
Every time he does that, you see Locke going, give me my helmet. Give me my helmet. Go ahead, give me my helmet.
But overall, and again, it's week 2, so I don't want to overreact. But overall, this looks like a long year. Because now Minnesota beat San Francisco yesterday, so that Minnesota team is obviously better than most people gave them credit for. So that makes last week's loss feel a little less painful, because Minnesota is obviously not a bad team. But nevertheless, we went into the season saying we need to come out of these first 2 weeks with at least one win. We did not do that.
It's just the guys look. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean,
we find ways to lose.
Right.
Good teams find ways to win. We find ways to lose.
Your kicker pulls his hamstring right at the beginning of the game, so that changes everything. We got Dable. Sometimes I wonder. He's calling plays, and I still wonder. I really want to see actually that scheme from the back. I want to see a couple of guys go along. I still saw a couple of guys standing next to each other. on
Yes,
plays. So I can
yes,
understand Daniel going, who am I going to throw it to? Because there's
right.
nobody open.
And one guy can cover both of them when they're
Right.
that close to each other. That's not helpful. And it's usually more than one guy. But
Yeah.
even one guy can cover both of them. Certainly 2 or 3 guys can cover both of them when they're that close together.
It's usually
Yeah, no,
two
I don't
guys
get that.
and somebody coming downhill
Coming downhill.
to make sure it's going to stop the play.
Now, you talk about looking at the footage. So I looked at a little bit of it. I didn't get to all 22 yet, but I looked at some footage, and there's still a couple of things that make me scratch my head. One of them was there's been so many times when Washington had the ball, either 3rd and 1 or in some cases 4th and 1,
Okay.
and we've got 2 defensive tackles on the field. Why can't we have 3 or 4 defensive tackles on the field on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1? What did we think they were going to play? I mean, going to call. So, if we have Dexter and let's say Nunez Roches next to him, and then a whole lot of linebackers and defensive backs, if I'm Washington, I call an audible and say, let's go off tackle. Or maybe even up the middle if we can double or triple team Dexter, because the rest of these guys aren't up close enough and they aren't big enough to stop me from getting 1 yard.
Okay, yeah.
We have to make them throw the ball. And the one time that we did make them throw the ball, our cornerbacks were playing so far off the ball. It was, again, 3rd and 1. I think this was like the first or the second drive. I think it was the first drive of the game. 3rd and 1. And our cornerbacks are 10 yards off the ball. So they just threw a quick bubble screen and picked up the first down. I'm like, you can't be 10 yards off the ball on 3rd and 1. What world does that work in?
Good teams do what?
Good teams find ways to win.
And bad teams
find ways to lose. And, again, head scratchers. And even on that play, we only had 2 defensive tackles then. So they could have got the first down either way. But I guess Jaden Daniels looked out to the right and said, wait a minute. Y'all played 10 yards off on 3rd and 1 here. Just take this and give me 2 yards. And of course, they got like 5 or 6 yards.
We gotta love this team to keep watching it too. It was
It
was painful to watch the game, but I figured they're gonna find a way to pull it out. We're gonna score some way, but
so at least we scored, right? At least we scored. We only got 18 points out of our 3 touchdowns, but we did get 18 points. We did score touchdowns. So now we have 24 points this year.
For the year,
probably. That's so 12 points a game. That's probably not going to get too many W's if you're averaging 12 a game, but at least we're in double figures and at least we have touchdowns. So
not with our defenses giving up long drives.
Long drives.
Long time consuming drives.
They scored all the time. If Washington got the ball, points happened. That's not okay.
No.
That's not going to get it done.
No. And I want to say this too. And Malik Neighbors, you seen him like get down when he dropped that pass at the end of the game.
Yes.
I'm not faulting the kid.
No, of course not.
You're gonna drop pass. That's okay.
Right.
You're gonna
the fact is, he wasn't in the end zone, right? It's not like had he caught that ball, that's 6 points and we win. We still didn't have a kicker. Right. So we would have still been faced with, well, now we got to get in the end zone because we can't kick a field goal.
Right.
Like it's not like that play would have won the game. It would have given us another 4 downs to try to win the game.
True. Now, what could we do? Other than having another kicker,
yes,
I'm sitting there thinking, I was watching the game and said, like, what could we have done differently? And I was thinking, okay, one, I appreciate you finding Neighbors now. What I don't appreciate, Slayton's not getting any passes. Hyatt, again, you said he was in the game. I really didn't see him in the game. I really didn't see him in the game.
He was in the game briefly a few times. And in fact, they used him as a blocker on a couple of plays. I was like, really? Like y'all brought him in to block? I mean, I'm sure when they brought him in, it wasn't to block, but the play they called when he was in was a running play and he was therefore asked to block. And I don't think a tight end caught a pass. I certainly did. Daniel Bellinger barely played. I think he played fewer than 10 snaps. I think he played like 5 or 6 snaps, if I remember correctly. Theo Johnson, who did play a good number of snaps, I don't think he got targeted at all. He certainly didn't. I don't think he made any catches. Chris Manhertz, who's our blocking tight end, did block, and he blocked mostly well. In fact, his block sprung Devin Singletary for the touchdown run that put us up at the beginning. But again, would it kill us to, fake a handoff and have Daniel roll out to the right and just dump a little flat pass to the tight end after he chips and releases. Like every other team seems to be able to do that, to be able to figure out how to get their tight ends in the game. Zach Ertz had catches yesterday against us as a tight end. Zach Ertz, who's been playing since like the Bush administration. I think Randall Cunningham used to throw to Zach Ertz back when he was Philly.
Probably.
Maybe Ron Jaworski. I mean, he's been there a minute. Now he's on a different team in the NFC East, but he's like, oh, wait, what's up? Oh, we got the Giants? Okay, I'm good for you. I'm good for you.
It's tough. It was definitely a tough Sunday. I'm still gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna stay optimistic to the end.
Yes.
But it's just when
I don't look at the schedule. If you want to stay optimistic, don't look at the schedule.
I'm not looking. No. I wait till the day of the game. Really, I just root for them no matter what. I just hope and pray. What is funny with the way the defense is playing right now, the Giants will have to score every time they get the ball, some way somehow. I will right now. We should have a kicker in the camp. A kicker.
We have one. We have a kicker on the practice squad. We just decided not to use him.
He should have been practicing in the game yesterday. That's what he should have been practicing. He should have been in the game. I was just like figuring out. I was really trying to figure out why don't we have another kicker on the team?
Well, I mean, it's hard to carry two kickers regularly, but if you know your kicker is injured,
right? That's what I'm saying.
You carry a second kicker.
He went into the game with a groin injury.
And why was he kicking off? Right? If he has a groin injury, why do I want him on the field for the kickoff anyway?
Right.
I mean, our punter kicked off the rest of the game and kicked the ball into the end zone with no problem. So he can reach the back, the goal line and beyond enough where teams will just down the ball. So why even have him on the field where he might possibly have to make a tackle? And the second thing is, if I'm the special teams coach and I see a 37-year-old kick with a groin injury, I say to him, if they look like they're going to score, let them score.
Let them go.
Opening kickoff, we can recover from down 7-0 with 59 minutes and 45 seconds left. Right. You know what we can't recover from? You getting hurt. So,
my thing is,
please don't try to make any tackles. If you have to kick the ball off, just watch the rest of the play. Just pick up the tee and start walking to the side.
If I'm a special teams coach, if my kicker is down there making tackles, I got a problem with that.
I got a problem.
What about the other 10 guys? What were you doing?
Listen, unless there's like 30 seconds left in the game and that score wins the game, please don't get out there trying to make tackles. Please don't.
Pitiful, man. Pitiful. But, hey, it's blue.
But it is what it is. And listen, like you said, we root for the Blues, so we'll put it behind us, I guess.
We'll try.
And get ready for Cleveland. We'll talk about Cleveland in a couple of days.
Next. Right, okay.
I need to, like I said, I want to see the all-22. I want to start preparing, looking at who Cleveland has, where, and whatever, and see the strengths and weaknesses and the matchups. But I still got Washington fresh in my mind. So
very fresh, man. It's a fresh wound right now. It's very fresh wound.
Maybe that's what we should call this segment. The fresh wound segment.
Fresh wounds. It's very fresh. A Band-Aid's not even won't hold it down right now. I can't. It just can't.
Very painful. Very painful. And again, it's because we clearly could have won this game. And how many games do you think this season we're going to be saying that going into the game, that this is a game we can win? I think we'll be favored against Carolina, which is like week 9, I think. I mean, by then, who knows? We might be 0-8. They might be 1-7. So we might not be favored. And it's in Carolina. So I don't think we're going to get the benefit of that either. And we play Washington again. So, depending on how things shake out, maybe we'll be, you know what? I'm not even getting that far ahead of myself. We play Cleveland this week. Let's try to get through this week.
This game, I say this. Daniel has secured his spot for another start.
Absolutely. And that was not a given. So that's good. That's
I give him
well
that.
Said.
I like that. And I like that he's looking at neighbors. I like that. He even
took some deep shots.
I like that. Again, I'm trying to bring out the positive in this game. I really like that. Now, as far as Singletary didn't do bad. The fumble.
No, not at all. He ran for 95 yards. The fumble was a disaster. But
right.
Other than that, he had a good game.
Offensive line.
They protected him.
They did a pretty good job.
Very good job. They
I can't
opened up
complain
holes. Singletary averaged like, almost 6 yards a carry. And Daniel Jones was fairly clean most of the time. Had time to throw the ball.
Now, the defensive line. Problem. Force is what I want to say.
I mean,
Force.
Dexter's great, always. Like, Dexter just does work, but he has no help. And I mean, I don't know what we have to do. I've said this before. I've been saying since the preseason. I think we may have to trade someone to get someone. And the someone I would trade is Darius Slayton, but whatever. The fact is, we have to find a way to get another body on that defensive line. Like, we don't have Leonard Williams anymore. You know who we really miss, aside from Leonard Williams that was on the team last year, is A'Shawn Robinson. Because he was another one that you had to double team if you wanted to run the ball. And we don't have that guy anymore. There's a lot of things that I like about what this team has now, but we don't have, obviously, the right number 26. We don't have Xavier McKinney. We don't have Tyrod Taylor. We don't have A'Shawn Robinson. Those, I think, over the course of the season are going to be bigger losses than people gave them credit for. And so that concerns me because I like this kid, Elijah Chapman, but he's if we had 3 defensive linemen, I like him coming off like the C gap.
Right. Okay.
But when there's only 2, I just don't think he's big enough to be the second defensive tackle.
Well, one thing we never even talked about, and you're going to fill me on this one, are linebackers. Are they there?
Micah McFadden actually made a lot of tackles. He also, of course, missed a key tackle. He had Jaden Daniels dead to rights. I don't even know how he missed that tackle. Like he seemed to have tackled himself instead of Jaden Daniels somehow. And Daniels, of course, escapes and then runs for another 10, 12 yards, which turned what should have been, I think, 3rd and like 25 into 3rd and 15. And then they ran for 14 yards and then got that first down.
Right.
So, he was in the hole a lot. He's in the right place a lot, and he made a lot of tackles, but he's somebody who misses his share of tackles. And Bobby O played a typical Bobby O game. He was all over the field. He run fits the way he's supposed to, making tackles when the opportunity presents itself. But he needs some help. He needs help he needs defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen to keep him clean, right? So the lineman can't come upfield and block him so he can make even more tackles. And he needs another linebacker that tackles well, like Isaiah Simmons, great athlete, missing tackles, overrunning people.
I'm starting to
Sal's hurt. Deontay Johnson is hurt.
I'm starting to think that Isaiah Simmons may be overrated.
I'm not starting to think. He's so athletic, and you just look at this guy and say, this man is what, 6'4", 235, 240, and runs a 4.4.
But he can't tackle.
There's got to be some place for him. He was like Lorenzo Carter. Lorenzo Carter, when he came out of college out of Georgia,
oh yeah,
was a beast. He was 6'5", 250, and ran a 4.4, and was like, he's going to be great somewhere at something.
You can knock somebody down.
Not everybody that's a great athlete is a great football player. That's what it comes down to.
I see it now. Lastly, our defensive backfield. What do you think about them?
So again, they're young and they're figuring out some things. Tyler Nubin played most of the snaps and for the most part looked solid. I like Drew Phillips in the slot. He missed 1 or 2 tackles, but he also made 2 or 3 really good tackles. He got called for a terrible penalty. When I say terrible, I mean it was a bad call. One of the times when they had like 3rd and whatever, Zach Ertz ran him over, and they called him for defensive holding.
Oh, I know what yeah.
And literally, Zach Ertz ran him over. And he was like holding on for dear life to not get stampeded, and they called him a defensive holding. That was a terrible call. But I like him a lot. The rest we'll see. It's going to take a while for them to figure each other out, I guess. They were counting on having this great pass rush, that our edge rushes were going to be getting home in 2.5 seconds, and you don't have to cover people for long. That's not happening.
It's not happening though.
So
it's early.
There's always some blame to go around.
It's early.
It's early, but it's getting late fast.
And we got extra games. There's extra games now too. So we're not out of it yet. 0-2 last year, not the same 0-2 as this year. It's not.
Okay.
It's
No,
not.
it's not. It's not the same 0-2. No.
It's not the same moment to it, and that's what I want. I'm holding on to that right now. I'm holding on to that. That 0-2 last year is not the same as 0-2 this year.
Mazo, I like your optimism. I'm mostly an optimist, but I'm like 60-40 optimist and 40% realist. I won't say pessimist, but realist. And realistically, this team is several players away, and that's before any injuries, right? We have no depth. So if everybody stays healthy, we're still 3 or 4 players away from being relevant. And God forbid 1 or 2 people get hurt. It is I'm already looking at Cam Ward. I'm looking at Cam Ward tapes.
I knew it. That Miami quarterback. I knew you had to go there.
Miami quarterback, because I'm thinking draft. I'll be watching the Senior Bowl practices with I'm ready for the offseason.
We're 2 games into the games into the season. You're already talking 2025 draft.
I'm doing mock drafts online. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Cam, look, everyone out there, Cam Ward, look him up. Miami quarterback, look him up.
No joke.
We'll put him down for he's on our watch board right now. Cam Ward.
Yes, absolutely.
Cam Ward.
Absolutely.
We'll ask him. You'll ask Clay a question. Do we want Cam Ward or do you want Shedeur?
I know that I can answer that already.
Okay.
I don't want any parts of the Dion nightmare.
Okay.
Give me Cam Ward, please. Give me somebody other than Shedeur Sanders.
So,
anyway, guys, hit the like button, subscribe, shoot us some comments. Love to hear what you guys think about what we think.
Oh yeah.
But listen, it's dark days for now, and the forecast is not great as we look at the next 5 or 6 games. But we're going to be in there, hanging in there, right, Mazo?
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, thanks for hanging out with Football with the Fellas. I'm Mazo. That's Clay.
Clay from Brooklyn.
Hey, thanks a lot. God bless. Peace.
All right. Peace.